Okay, our first episode on video. I guess we can just scrap this and just release the audio if it doesn't work,
Yeah,
Baron.
absolutely. But that's not going to happen. Everyone's going to love the video.
Of course they are. Welcome, folks, to episode 9 of...
That reminds me of, and this is a special edition, right?
Is it ever?
The Melbourne International Film Festival has just kicked off. Tonight is the opening night, and we have decided, for a few reasons, and which we'll get into, but to basically pick off about 8 or so films from the festival, both see them and review them as quickly as we can after the actual film viewing, so that it's nice and fresh.
Yep, it's a break from our usual style of show, our usual frequency of show, our usual level of enthusiasm.
That's right. It means for the next 2 weeks we're going to be putting out 8 episodes. If all goes to plan, who knows what will happen, but that's the ambition.
Yeah. So today we've just both seen First Cow.
Yes.
Which is the opening night film.
Yes.
What a bloody thrill for starters. I so enjoyed it. Normally this is the time of year where I'm going to MIFF every year, getting the passport, trudging through the rain, usually sitting through films with wet socks because it's been so cold and wet in Melbourne, and I've been like waiting in queues and stuff to get in.
Yeah.
And now you can just sit down in your chair and completely dry. It's actually beautiful.
So what you're saying is you like the festival from home?
I kind of do. I don't have to smuggle my hip flask in. It's cool.
Oh man, I don't know how many people would prefer this. I mean, for me, it felt really odd. I kind of got the festival vibes. I caught the festival vibes a little bit when all of these sponsored by videos and like little trailers and things happened at the beginning, and it had the cool kind of, that every festival, they have like their own little ident that plays at the beginning with some fancy music. It had that. Yeah. And so you're in a festival. But I'm sitting in my office chair.
Can you hear that noise?
Oh, is that Jessie?
I think that's Jessie the cat.
Let Jessie in.
What's that? 2 minutes.
2 minutes in.
Okay, I've left the door ajar so she can come in or out.
Jessie can come and go. Jessie doesn't give a shit. She wants to come and go when she wants. So what was I saying? Yeah, we were, you have the festival vibe to a degree, except here I am in my office watching it on my computer because my wife's in the other room taking the TV and the girls are doing their thing. And it just, I don't know, it didn't feel at all like a festival to me. So I have mixed feelings.
I thought the start with all the MIFF look and feel, it still all had all that, and I just felt like I was there. I think they've done really well.
It still got you going. Yeah, that's cool. And they even did a Q&A, which is a bonus. I think that's cool that they're still doing some of that stuff, because that's one of the bonuses of a film festival is often straight after the film, the director or the writer or one of the actors gets up and does a little Q&A, which is nice.
Yeah, that was great. And the intro, did you see that?
No, I didn't. I missed I missed the extra content until afterwards, and I skipped that one.
Yeah, it was just a 1 minute thing, and the director, I blanked on a name. How ridiculous! The
director Kelly
Reichardt. Kelly Reichardt.
Yeah.
Melbourne.
Well, I just started playing it. Sorry,
Jessie.
This is professional
difficulties. Yeah, so she did a little intro and she did the Q&A afterwards.
Yeah, and that was really good. They just gave it like with festivals, it made you feel as though you were participating in something a bit special.
Look, I think they've done the best that they can with, like, they've made lemonade for sure, right? And they've done a good job of it. But I think the magic of festivals is being there, That's a big part of it for me anyway.
Yeah. True.
So that's a little hard to get by, but who cares? This is this year. This is what we're going through, right? And they've done a great job of it. I'm looking forward to what the full experience of the 2 weeks will be.
Yeah. Well, first cow. Did you know anything about Kelly to begin with?
Look, I didn't, and I didn't do any research for this film beforehand. So I came in cold, only knowing what the synopsis for the film was, and that it was the opening night film, and it looked interesting, and there was a bit of buzz around it. That was it. Which is kind of, I mean, it's always a fun way to see a film, and it's quite hard to do. But at festivals, it's a common theme. Like, you've got this long list of films. You don't know what you're getting half the time. So you just start picking off the ones that sound the most interesting, often, and that's exciting and fun.
Yeah, well, that's what I did here too, and just picked the film based on the synopsis. It sounded cool, and it was the opening night one, so I thought, well, it's
got to be all right. Yeah,
it's got to be okay. But then I looked back at her back catalogue and realised that I had seen another one of hers at MIFF probably a couple of years back, Night Moves, starring Jesse Social Network.
Eisenberg. I just made that up. That was an Eisen something.
Jesse Eisenhower.
Eisenhower. Eisenberg. That's right.
Yeah. No, Jesse Eisenhower. He's good. I don't remember that film all that well, films. But I do remember the feel of it, and it was about these environmentalists who basically do a terrorist act of blowing up a dam, and it was really cool from memory.
Yeah, I've seen Meek's Cutoff, which is another one of her films, and I didn't realize it was the same director until after I watched this, I did a little bit of Googling and IMDbing and sort of linked a few things. So, and that's an equally sparse, quiet sort of, I don't know, frontier, big open landscapes kind of film. This one doesn't have big open landscapes, but it's, there's nature's a real presence in the film, like it is in this one.
Yeah, I've read the synopsis for that. It sounded really, really similar.
Yeah. I can't remember all the ins and outs of it because it's been a number of years, but it's the style of it really stuck with me. It's a film that I can remember, and just how much the soundscape of the environment plays into the film was really noticeable, and it's in this film as well. Like it almost doesn't have a score that you can pick out until about the last sort of 10 minutes of the film. The rest of it just sounds like trees and wind and water and bird song, and it's a real style.
Cat scratching on doors sort of sound. Is that
you leave the
what
door
you were
open?
Searching for?
That's right. Is Jessie trying to come in again?
See, yes, she is, and then
she doesn't care
it's
about
a long
the door.
story.
Okay. Tell her we're trying to do something here.
And then I open it and she won't come in. And then it's this vicious circle.
That's always the way.
First impressions, do we start there?
Yeah, let's do it. And then we'll do a bit of a synopsis.
Yeah.
I guess for a festival film, I mean, normally we go all out. We don't care about spoilers. I think maybe because this film is still doing the rounds and it hasn't been widely released yet, we should probably hold off on spoiling the end, right?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Hang on, I'm gonna get my co-host here.
There we go.
There's the culprit. See how long this works. Yeah, no spoilers.
All right.
So the film opened on this big boat cruising slowly down the river.
Yes, a modern boat as well.
A modern boat.
Which was interesting because it's not the film you think you're seeing.
That it was a long boat and a long shot.
Yeah, it was. Yes, it was. And she does this really you don't want to give away too much here, but the film is kind of bookended in a way, and she's done a really interesting thing of sort of starting off in the future and then with a question mark, and then filling in the gaps with a story from 200 years earlier, or whatever it is. I think it was, but it was 1820s ish.
1820s ish, yeah. Did you pick that up straight away? Like, did you have a sense of time and place of those two times and places straight away?
I did actually. When she has that opening scene, I knew that this is what we were getting into. So perhaps I've seen it before somewhere, but I went, okay, great. So we're going to find out the story from the past of these characters. It's great. Did it occur to you or not really?
No, I missed it. I missed it, and I spent a third of the film kind of wondering where they were, like, and not thinking that I hadn't got the cues to know where they were yet.
Yeah.
And then suddenly when I realised they're in the 1800s sometime, it looked like, I felt a bit dislocated and wondered, okay, how did that happen? I didn't see the transition.
Yeah, it was odd. Normally they make it more obvious. A lot of filmmakers would, by doing a super of some sort, or giving you some clue. I thought it was clever that she didn't. I thought that was a cool choice. And let's talk about it quickly while we're on some choices. Things 4x3. Did you notice that?
Did I notice it? I noticed it straight away, and my first question to myself was, what is Baron going to say about this? So I want to know, what was your reaction?
First reaction was that I hated it. I was like, oh my God. You know, the way you were talking about the how does my art move you thing? I that's what I was thinking. I was like, wow, here's a moment where the whole grainy 16mm vibe of it, the 4x3, the long, ultra long shot of like a ship in the harbor, you just go, okay, here we go. It's full artsy, but by about sort of 15 minutes in, I forgot about it, and I just was in for the ride. So there you go.
15 minutes in, where would that have been? Because I charted my journey through the film, and where I thought it had me and lost me and had me. So where were we 15 minutes in? Where did you feel like, hang on, you're in?
I think it was around the time where Cookie, the cook that's sort of the talented baker, comes across the stowaway Chinese man, King Lu, and they and he decides to help him. I think that's probably where I started just getting hooked in the story, because everything before that is kind of preamble. It's setting up the character of Cookie. It's not that really that important to the overall story until that moment kicks off. Yeah,
I agree. And probably more specifically for me, the moment just a little bit after when they meet.
Yeah.
When you see that he's actually got what's his name in the film? King Lee?
King Lee. King Lee. I think it's King Lee.
Yeah. When he's stowed away, and
yes,
that's when I thought,
and he leaves
this is this is got some bite about it.
Yeah, absolutely. We've sort of gone all over the place. So how about we do a synopsis for the film, and then we can get into a bit more about what we liked and what stood out, what we didn't like, all that stuff.
Yeah, agree.
All right.
So you're so good at synopses, I find. I always love your synopses of films.
Oh man, I like yours too. I think we like each other's, the other person doing the synopses. So okay, how would I break it down? Well, it's set in the 1820s. We've covered that already. It's a kind of frontier film, and it follows a character called Cookie, who's at the start of the film, he's a cook for a group of skinners, I guess they're sort of,
yeah, I think they are
beaver and
trappers or something.
Trappers, something like that. And he's not liked by the group. They're all gruff men, and he's kind of like a daydreamer and, and just sort of one with nature and a little bit of a sort of,
yeah, he turns lizards around the right way up so they can get away.
Exactly. He's just not a tough dude.
Yeah.
But there's something instantly likable about him. And then he discovers a Chinese man who has come over for gold to try and sort of find his fortune in gold, lost and naked in the woods, and he decides to help him, kind of save him. And this guy, the Chinese guy, King Lu, has 2 Russians that are chasing him. And they basically, Cookie gets fired from that gang of trappers. The Chinese man ends up in a town, sort of safe, and the 2 of them form a friendship, which then turns into like a business relationship when they decide that if they steal the milk from this first cow that's arrived in town and is owned by one of the rich, kind of, I don't know, almost like a mayor type character or a lord of the land. If they like steal the milk, they can make these amazing cookies. They're actually more like donuts, aren't they? And sell them for good money, because no one on the frontier has tasted that kind of food for a long time. And of course, the whole thing is they can't get caught doing it, or else they'd be in big trouble. And while they're going through all of this, their friendship just grows stronger and stronger. And
good synopsis.
We'll leave it around there, unless you got anything you want to add.
No. I just am interested, first of all, overall, did you like it?
I did. It was a long, feeling, kind of slow moving, introspective, quiet film. And sometimes I was a little bit annoyed. There was a couple sections in it where I just was a little, I was like, come on, let's do something. Let's get moving. But overall, I really enjoyed it. I just thought it was done well. And I think the friendship and that key relationship in the middle between the 2 guys was so engaging that it really pulled me the whole way through the story. And I thought the book ending, the beginning and end, was just brilliant. I loved it.
Yeah. I thought for the first half of the film, the slowness of it really got to me, and I was getting a bit. It was annoying me, certainly, and I was, because of it, I was picking up little nitpicky things here and there, and saying, that I'm not happy with that. The costumes aren't giving the right impression. Like, these are stupid things.
I've got
no right to criticize.
Yeah.
But then I felt that as it went on and drew you in, there was so much payoff because of the slowness, just so many points at the latter half of the film were heaps better, because you just had to grind your way through the start.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think sometimes when a film makes you work for it like that, then the smaller payoffs feel bigger as well. Like the film's so slow in the first half, and it is still, in the second half, it's still a pretty quiet film. Like, there's not a lot of action going on, but the action that is in there and the tension that is in there pays off and works so much better, I think, because the first half is so slow.
Yeah. It's like the film's pregnant in the first half.
Right.
And then, has the baby in the second.
Yeah. I was so curious about what you'd think about this film, because, you're a festival goer, right? And not everyone is. And I imagine in my mind that you're going to have a lot more patience for these kinds of films. So that's interesting to hear that it kind of got to you as well.
Well, no, I do have a lot more patience, and I generally like the slowness, but it did feel a bit like how does my art move you?
Exactly. A little overly labored. I don't know. Yeah.
It felt that way, but I completely go back on that by the end of it. Like, it really won me over. And by the end of it, I just thought it was a great film.
Yeah.
I can't speak highly enough about it.
Yeah. Interesting. Cool. there's so many references in this film. I'm looking forward, like I've got some remind me ofs, and that's not what we were necessarily planning to do, but I've got a bunch in mind. And I think she didn't mention it in her Q&A, but I think I could pick a couple of Kelly's references for sure, like, because they came through so strongly for me. And there's a couple little Easter eggs in there, if I'm right, which was fun.
Well, just for those, multiple viewers and listeners and subscribers that haven't listened to our show before, the premise, we should remind them, is that we normally watch a film and then spend the second half of the episode just talking about all the other films that it reminds us of. And we agreed that wasn't going to be the way we'd go this time. But sometimes, I agree,
you just got to go with it, man. It's there.
Go with it.
Yeah, I think, well, we knew we weren't going to have the time, right, to sit around thinking about it afterwards, because we're literally recording, half an hour after seeing the film, which is fun in its own right, because the feelings and the thoughts are all kind of fresh, right? We've just seen the film. We haven't had too much time to overthink it. But if the remind me ofs are there, let's do it. Might as well.
Well, throw one at me.
Okay. So I think, a few weeks ago, I can't even remember the film. Maybe it was The Lighthouse. I talked about Dead Man.
Yeah.
So I got so many Dead Man vibes the whole way through this thing. And then at a certain point in the film, it's maybe 30 minutes, 40 minutes in, Gary Farmer appears in there. Like plays the Indian character or the Native American character in Dead Man, and here he's sitting all up, dressed up in sort of the chief outfit, and I was like, well, there it is. There's the Easter egg.
That's incredible. So I didn't pick that because I haven't seen Dead Man for so long. So
I loved it. It made me smile because I was catching that vibe, and then at the end of the film, she drops the score right down to a lone guitar kind of playing along, and that's just so reminiscent of Neil Young's soundtrack from Dead Man as well.
Yeah.
So that one was really clear.
Did you see the scene that Neil Young was in? You missed him?
Are you serious?
I can't believe you missed him. He was the third shooter on the... No, sorry.
You're killing me here. That's hilarious. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
So no, that was cool. That was cool. And just the scenes where the two of them are walking around talking about random shit, that's such a Dead Man thing that, there's so many travel scenes in that film where the two friends are just, talking about just really things that have nothing to do with the film, but they're in there.
Yeah.
And that's great. That's great. In fact, I would say the dialogue in this is just great across the board. I really enjoyed it.
I had mixed feelings about the dialogue again in the first half in particular. Like there was that big monologue, but what do you call it? Monologue / montage.
Which one is this?
A montage-a-log.
Montage-a-log.
No, it was when they're early on in their courtship, and you're seeing the relationship develop.
Yeah,
and you're seeing King. What's his name?
Lou.
King Lou.
Yeah.
Sorry, last time I'll ask. He's doing most of the talking and dreaming about the future, and the whole thing is spread across 3 or 4 different scenes of domestic bliss. One will be out mowing the lawn, and the other's sort of doing the dishes inside, and
absolutely,
and it goes so long.
It was never mentioned in the Q&A with the director, but to me, it was such an obvious question. Like, I just wanted to know if she was sort of playing with, like, having a gay couple potentially. You could read it as that in like a really sort of bizarre setting where they've and for a while I thought that's where the film was going. I thought we were heading towards these two falling in love. I like that it didn't go that way and that they just remained friends, but You could read it almost as that, you know, and they were so out of time. Like there were two dudes that felt like they should be living in the world today because they're just so sort of, I don't know, enlightened and soft and gentle and kind to each other, and they're in this world just full of men that are like murderers and rapists, it seems, you know. So
that was so wonderful, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And you could see she planted all these seeds of a romantic connection between, didn't she, with like that crazy thing where King goes out to start the fire, and Cookie just immediately starts, you know, being house proud.
I loved that scene. I loved it.
It was so nice. And then he brings the flowers in.
Yes.
And I at no stage thought, I was hoping it wasn't going to become a physical relationship. Well, that's the obvious reference, and I was thinking of that all through. I was hoping it wouldn't, just because I wanted them to play with norms, and that's what she did, and just playing with what a male friendship relationship means, and just presenting it differently. Like it's so different. We've looked at so many films just in the last few weeks, looking at male friendship and male relationship, haven't we? Like
we have. You're right. Tons. It's a good
Bad
point.
Boys for Life,
just randomly.
The Lighthouse.
Yeah.
Not sure what else, but this was just a completely different and refreshing take on it.
Absolutely. You know, she's a minimalist through and through. Like the way I think about her filmmaking now is like those guys, the minimalists. It's like, what can you take out? That seems to be her whole approach. So I think the idea that relationship would become physical she'd almost be turned off by that and go, well, it doesn't have to go there. Like I can remove that element, that obvious element, and we can explore what happens when it doesn't go there.
Yeah.
There's something to it. It makes her films feel like I think the two that I've seen, they feel like festival films. They don't feel like films for a mainstream audience. And that says more about just the taste of people than about her films. I think her films are pretty great. The two that I've seen are pretty wonderful. So, but they're not for everyone, I don't think. I think that they have that vibe, and because they're so stark, that's sort of what it's about.
Have you seen or read of Mice and Men?
Yeah, I've read it. I think maybe a long time ago I saw the Gary Sinise one.
And what's his name? Malkovich.
Yes, Malkovich. That's right.
It reminded me of that.
That's great.
Two blokes with like in that case there was the sort of smart, wisecracking one, and the slow
Sinise's like King
one.
Lou. Yeah, and totally.
King Lou's the Gary Sinise, and always plotting and scheming, and what are we going to do? He's like an entrepreneurialist. And yes, so similar, and in both cases just dreamers. They've got nothing, and their whole life is about, you know, what they're going to make of it.
It's all plans, right? Yeah.
And that same relationship where in Mice and Men, they're planning their life together. Like they really are. We're going to get a little plot of land and a house, and it's nice. That was probably the main reference for me.
Yeah, I like that. The other one I had was Jeremiah Johnson. Did you ever see that?
No.
Sidney Pollack film from, I think it was the 70s.
Well, I love Sidney Pollack.
Yeah, it's a fave of mine. I haven't seen it. I think I've maybe seen it 4 or 5 times in my life, but I just love it. It's another really quiet film. It's got Robert Redford in it, and for huge chunks of the film, it's just Robert Redford, just in the wilderness as a trapper, skinner, and he's just trying to survive on his own. But it has that same sort of quiet, long shots. The nature's a real part of the film. The soundtrack is nature, very, very sparse. It really made me think a bit about that, and made me want to go watch that film again, because it's such a great film.
Well, once you've finished watching that, if you haven't seen it, watch the one where Robert Redford, an old Robert Redford, so 50 years after that, probably, 40 years, is on a boat by himself.
Oh, I have seen it. Yeah.
What's it called?
It's a great, what's it called? Yeah, it's the one where his yacht turns over while he's out at sea, right? And he ends up, does he end up on top of it for a while? I'm trying to remember exactly.
Well, he ends up in all sorts of strife. And it just, like, the point is that it's so slow moving, and you're with him every second of the journey, every split second decision, and things just go slightly wrong, and that gets amplified because of the slowness, just like in this one.
I have seen it because it was actually a reference. I shot a short film set in the ocean, and it's about a man that's been thrown off the back of a boat and left to die because he had some gambling debts, and the whole thing takes place in the water. And so that film was one of the films I watched just to get a sense of how they'd put it together. I can't remember what it's called. Blanking on it.
You can't remember what your film was called?
No, my film's called Tide. I can't remember what that film's called with Robert Redford.
Yeah. Look, it's a good film. People can look it up.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Cool. Anything else come to mind?
Well, a silly one did for me. It's just, not really, but have you seen the series Wayward Pines?
Oh, I haven't seen it, no. I've heard about it.
Matt Dillon and the character of, what's his name? I can't think of the character's name or the actor's name. in first, real aficionado I am.
This is what happens. This is what happens to us. We talk about so many varied references, you just forget names.
Film experts. The guy who plays the chief bloke who they steal the milk from.
I wrote his name down. Toby Jones, Chief Toby Jones in this.
I'm pretty sure he plays precisely the same character in Wayward Pines.
What a great face that guy has.
A what face?
What a great face.
We always talk about great faces on this podcast.
We probably do, but character actors, I guess that's what it's all about. But he has a great face.
Well, in Wayward Pines, he's the head honcho of this kind of Twilight Zone little community. There's all this mystery about what the community is. It's almost Truman Show-like. And he has these these disciplinary things where he'll kill people in order to, make everyone else scared. And he basically gave that line in this movie. Anyway,
which was brilliant, by the way, because that line, that moment, that little scene where he does that sets up the stakes. You know that if he catches the two guys who've been stealing milk from his cow, he's probably going to kill them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just to make a point. Yeah, it was brilliant. Great.
Yeah, just really a shame it was stolen, lifted straight from Wayward Pines, but that's okay.
I love it. Speaking of just dialogue and little moments, there was a moment where the two guys are walking. This just sort of highlights it for me. This kind of malaise, that this sort of dreamy, just talk about life kind of feeling that this film has when these two are just walking from place to place. There's a bit of dialogue that I wrote down while I was watching it because it made me laugh, where Cookie says, "Do you really believe that?" after they've just been talking about something. And the response you get from King Lou is, "I believe different things in different places."
Oh, wow.
It was just beautiful. Just a beautiful little moment that basically sort of sums up the whole vibe of the way these two are going about life.
Yeah. It was interesting, the dialogue. There were those little nuggets that were wonderful. A lot of it I found forgettable or overly sentimental at times. But then all of a sudden you come across something just that's beautiful like that. So, for example, I wasn't sure what to make, especially early on, of the relationship with the Cookie had with the cow and the conversations with the cow.
Yeah.
Did you have any reaction, allergic or otherwise, to those scenes?
Overall, I thought because he's such an oddball anyway, I kind of went with it. But there was one moment where he's milking the cow, and it gets a little sexual and weird, where he's like milking the cow, and he's like, and then he says, he's like, "How's that feel, girl?" Something like that. There was some line like that that was just a bit like, oh, I don't know about that, man. But yeah, I'm like, where's this film going?
I missed that line, but there were certainly sexual undertones
with the cow.
with the cow. But like a lot of the stuff, to me, that then paid off somehow. I kind of cringed through all those scenes, but then all of a sudden that had narrative relevance, didn't it? It had relevance to the plot.
Yeah, and you know the way we've talked about in the past, there's filmmakers that are doing artsy things that are just sort of seemingly trying it on, like, let's just throw a bit of this at it because we can. I felt like every choice she made had been interrogated. There was that it wasn't frivolous. It wasn't, let's just do this because it's cool or we like the style. It all kind of paid off in some way by the end. I appreciate that. There's like rigor to it, it's not just like she's really thought about all those little things that feel incidental in the moment.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think that's why I ended up loving it, because it almost played a trick on me. As I said, so much I didn't like, first of all, and on almost every point that I hadn't liked much, she kind of threw it back in my face.
Yeah.
And that ended up being something that I really liked, which is odd.
No, I like that. That's a good way to sum up the film, because I think, like we were talking about, it being so slow in the first half, and then that is actually what almost makes it all pay off so well in the second half. It feels like that's what she's done. She's pulled one over us a little bit, lulled us in with this feeling of uber artsy festival film, but then it does pay off in the end. So bravo, that's pretty good.
I'll tell you, we're probably nearly done, but I'll tell you what else I liked. You gave a reference a week or two ago. What was it? Was it the Edgar Allan Poe or Roald Dahl, or both?
There was one of each.
There was one of each, and it was the gist of both was serving up the
yes.
What was it?
It was
serving
like
up the murder weapon.
Yeah,
serving up the murder weapon to the father of the person that's been killed. Almost. I can't remember what the scenarios were.
Yeah.
The initial reference being rope, where they served the dinner on top of the dead body, and I saw so much parallel with what they ended up doing when he bakes the cake.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
so I'm not sure
great.
That's a spoiler.
No, it was great. I totally agree. And I love how dumb Toby Jones' character is, like Chief Factor. He's sort of missing this whole thing's happening in front of him, and yet everyone else around him seems to be figuring it out so quickly. It was pretty well done. Oh, another brilliant moment in this film. Did you or did you not light up when you saw Spud from Trainspotting appear in it?
Yeah, straight away.
I thought that was great. There's some casting choices are just so inspired, and in a film like this, where you're thinking, okay, this is super indie, I'm probably not going to recognize a single face in this film, and then you get Spud. Well, for me, it was Gary Farmer, then it was Spud, or maybe it was the other way around, and then it was Toby Jones, and it was pretty cool to see all three of them in there.
Now, I hope Toby Jones is from Wayward Pines.
I would love it if he is.
If he's not from Wayward Pines, we need to scrap this episode and perhaps do it again another time.
I don't think anyone will care, man.
So forgive me if not.
Great.
Cool.
Well, I think we've covered it, man. That's a good first good opening night film. One question I had for you is, sometimes when you go to a festival and you see the opening night film, it makes you draw some conclusions about what the whole festival is going to be like, what the themes of the festival might be. Did you have any initial feelings based on this?
Let's see. Well, I've never I've never taken the opening night film very seriously, I have to say. I've often, even if I've seen it, I've skipped over it thinking, okay, they've picked something that will have wide appeal. And then I've not gone much further into it. In this case, because it's a trimmed down festival, I guess I've got something, a little fear that the whole thing will be easily digestible for a wide audience, and there won't be too many things that just freak me out. Or
yeah.
So that's just one niggling thing at the back of my mind. But so I think it's not going to be too out there. That's what I got from this film. But then again, I've looked at the program and I loved all the film. I loved the sound of all the ones that I picked.
Yeah,
so,
me too.
What about you?
I sort of went the other way. I had a feeling that maybe with less films and a little bit more of a streamlined approach, that maybe they might have actually gone more risky with it and chosen some more bizarre films to throw in there. But who knows? We'll find out. I thought as an opening night film, this film is it's definitely enjoyable. Whether it's the usual kind of crowd pleaser that you might expect at a festival, I don't know. It's interesting.
Didn't feel like a big crowd pleaser. It felt like a quiet, mellow crowd pleaser.
Yeah, like no one's going to be turned off by it. But some people might be a little bored by it. Seems like a horrible thing to say, but maybe
some people could be. I think it's almost an entrance test. You know, people have to sit the exam, pass, and then they get to see the rest of the festival.
Yeah,
so
that's sort of what I took from
necessary.
it. Yeah, that's kind of what I took from it. Is that we hopefully we'll see some more interesting films that push the boundaries a little bit as we go along.
Yeah,
and if you made it through this and you enjoyed it, you're going to be fine with the rest.
Yeah. Well, perhaps if anybody has made it through this podcast episode, and enjoyed it or didn't hate it, perhaps they can join us at the next one. I'm not sure what movie it'll be yet, but we've got a swag to choose from.
That's right. Yep. There's a whole bunch that are going to happen that you can watch at any time during the 2 weeks. So we're going to pick off a couple of those to do in the next few days. And then there's a couple sort of films that have single screenings that we're doing as well. So it's a real mixed bag. Okay.
Well, one way or another, I'll speak to you soon, Baron.
Brilliant, Doc. Great episode. Great chatting with you. Talk to you soon, man.